NERDSoul. Late LK at OneYoungsta holding it down, bringing that StreetGeek and NERDSoul. What is up, my people? Today, all year, coming with another wonderful episode of, that's right, specials. We are here with some awesome people from all over the globe. Well, all over the U.S., but I mean, U.S. is on the globe. And we're going to be getting into operating during the quarantine. You know, we are either in or around the industry, and the industry is changing. So before we get into the conversation, I'm going to give you guys a round robins of introductions. To my right or left, because I forgot how it flips the screen, but Victor Dandridge, introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Victor Dandridge, aka the hardest working man in comics. I am the editor-in-chief behind Vantage In-House Productions, the creator of You Create Comics, as well as the Geeking clothing line. All
right, and to my other left or right, I have Solar Greye.
Hey, how you guys doing out there? This is Solar Greye, the cinematic sorcerer, coming at you guys through NERDSoul. And I'm the director and CEO of Back in the Deck Productions, because let's face it, not every geek, well, there's a whole lot of geeks out there that happen to be people of color, women, LGBTQ, or have disabilities, or be fiscally disenfranchised. What's up? Y'all are safe here.
And in the center square, we have Chuck Collins.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? I'm Chuck Collins. I make a little comic called Bounce. I used to be an animator turned bouncer. Made a little comic about it, and it's 67% based on reality. The rest is very, very heavy, like a lot of alcohol infused dream crazy nonsense that I just added in there. But
so it's a comic.
Still running strong. Got the website. Got 450 comics under the belt. Not actual comics. I mean like strips. But
whatever, that counts. That counts. Don't diminish.
Still good.
Don't backtrack. Don't backtrack.
Right. I thought that was a show.
So yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, working to make it more than a comic, trying to bring it to the next level, and that's what I've been working on.
Cool. And going to the center line to the southwest, maybe, Robert Jeffrey. What's up?
Hey, what's up? Robert Jeffrey, writer of, creator of Route 3, Mind to Avenge, Crossing, and writer of 133 Arts Retcon, and graduate of the DC Comics New Talent Workshop. Apparently this is choking me up. And I got a chance to write a John Stewart story, and a huge Star Trek fan, so it's pretty much right wherever I can get in.
Cool. And before we go on, I'm just going to say, free Mind to Avenge. Free Mind to Avenge.
No, that's a hashtag, baby. Let's spread that.
Yeah. In the southeastern or western square, we have Jason Reeves from 133 Art.
Hey, Jason Reeves of 133 Art. Y'all know what I do. I make comics.
Like enough said.
At the bottom row, but not the worst, we have Quinn McGowan.
What's going on? Quinn McGowan, editor-in-chief of Legends Press, creative partner in the Operative Network, and the creator of Project Wildfire.
What up, what up? And last but not least, David Crownson.
Hello, my name is David Crownson, and I'm the writer and creator of Harriet, Tubman, Demon Slayer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's like,
and we all know who the demon is. I'm just saying. So,
I'm hiding that one right now.
Like, is it James Cronin?
Black.
We're gonna get this conversation started off because the industry has changed. We've seen conventions close. We've seen Diamond like hold up. You know, we've seen a whole bunch of shops closing because of stay-at-home orders, and you know, just checking in with each other, seeing how y'all are doing. I'm gonna start with David. David, how are you operating? How have things changed for you since we're hopefully mostly staying at home and things are moving to a very digital space?
Yeah, man. I think before, before this weird apocalypse happened, I had just made like a Microsoft spreadsheet of different comic book stores I was going to hit up, and usually what I do is just kind of cold call comic book stores and just be as transparent and vulnerable as possible with like telling myself, just saying like, hi, my name's David, I've done 2 Kickstarters and this is my comic book, Harriet Tubman, Demon Slayer. And sometimes I think, oh, that's great, can I get a PDF? And they read it, but like then they go, oh, it looks cool, like I'll take 10 copies. And then I call Jason Reeves, who we all know, and just say, yo, Jason, send these shits, and let me PayPal you some shit. Do it now, Negro, and Superman can beat Harry Potter. Oh well, and then I hang up. But now
all of that is true.
But I think when things close, I just what's it called? Kind of still maintaining and engaging people through like Twitter and through Facebook and Instagram on a consistent basis, even if it's behind the scenes things. Like one of my artists, like he just sent me just like a thumbnail sketch, and I thought it looked really cool and awesome. So I just shared like, hey, here's upcoming issue 4, hopefully being out on Comixology by June 19th, Juneteenth. Because nothing screams like Harriet Tubman killing a bunch of racist vampires. But I think that has helped. People might see and they go, oh, like I think this is interesting. Hey, I saw your comic here. I mean, stores are closed, but can I PayPal or Venmo you and have it shipped to my address? And I'm like, yeah, sure, of course. And I'll be like, hey, like I'll sign it too. Actually, no. What's crazy? People say, hey, do you mind signing it? And I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. They're like, oh my God, I can't believe this Negro's gonna sign my shit. And I'm like, yeah, like,
oh my God, he can write.
Take the mark here.
This Negro's gonna put his initials on our shit. I just think on a consistent basis, just being transparent and being open. Like, there's this amazing book, it's called Steal Like an Artist by like Austin Kleon, and he had a sequel to the book called Share Like an Artist, and he's like, yo, like it's all just about having a presence and maintaining content online. And he just talks about like, doing things like this, like coming together as a community or going live and like talking about your comic. Or like, for me, I'm like, I'm a writer. I don't draw this shit. I pay like really talented people to draw my shit. But he's like, no, like, put like your script, like make like a little like grid. And when I'm about to post like tomorrow, it's my favorite like splash page for issue 3, where I literally just told like this artist, I was like, yo, make this epic. It says Harriet Tubman fights vampires, and then I'm like, yo, Sylvan, make this epic as fuck. And then I had to retranslate it because the dude doesn't speak English and shit. So he's like, what does as fuck mean and shit? So I'm like, all right, I was like, fuck. So I just
see
said,
it now, Harriet Tubman Kaiju.
Seriously, like this dude, he doesn't speak a word of English. He's from Paris, but I loved his work. I like did a Kickstarter just because I wanted to work with him. So I just put like you'll see it. It's just like the script, like it's a screenshot of the script and what I said, and then it's like the visual, which I think is like awesome. It's like Harriet Tubman killing a bunch of like vampires and stuff, but just maintaining, just being like, I call it being pleasantly annoying online about your stuff and going hard for your stuff, like the way I would go for like Star Wars or like Avengers, kind of treating not because I think that there was this girl who went off a tangent, but like there was this girl this young lady, she came up to me when I was doing a book signing, and she seemed really shy about like sharing this comic she wrote. She was like, this girl in high school. And I'm like, no, man, like, treat your shit like it's fucking Star Wars, man. like you hype for it the way you would be hyped for seeing like Endgame on opening night. Like, that's how you gotta like be, and that's the amount of energy and enthusiasm you need. So kind of being that hyperactively in these weird coronavirus times, so
Coronavirus.
It's getting real. So I maintain that level, or keep it real. I'm rather freaked out for a second. They're like my other day job was like, Negro, you're fired. I was like, shit. So Jason, we had printed like I think 2 or 3 boxes worth of my chapter 3s.
Yep.
And I'm like, all right, I gotta like maintain this energy and this possibility of stuff. So doing that separately on Twitter, and then doing it on Facebook, and checking in with even people who like donated on Kickstarter, because they just had pledged just to have the trade paperback. And I'm like, hey guys, just so you know, issue 3 is out in case you want to see it. And they're like, fuck yeah, I want to see. I want something to read to take my mind off of this stuff. So I was like, cool, you won't pay like shipping and handling or whatever. Or here's a PDF copy. Here's a screenshot of this, and maintaining again, just kind of showing up as every person that inboxes you about your comic in a positive way. Just treat them like they're your best friend as well, and also being open socially as well, and also like even dealing with like some haters, in a pleasant way. Like someone inboxed me about my comic. They're like, hey, I'd like to buy a comic, and I was like, oh, cool. This was last week. The guy was like, hey, like I want to see your comic. And I said, oh, my PayPal's this, or my Venmo's this, and he was just like, I was just kidding. Fuck your comic and so, right? He says that was a joke, and like I think your book is problematic and like racist and shit. So I was like, all right, let me look this guy up. No, he was some 23-year-old kid who like works at McDonald's, and he has hashtag Keep America Great. So I was like,
oh, okay.
And he has like 13 followers, and I was like, oh, I already won this.
So
I was like, I already won. So I was just like, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
With that said, and I'll just throw this to all of you guys. I guess Quinn can hit it off because I just saw you do the chef's kiss. How are you turning it up in the face of adversity through the quarantine? Because I know that social interaction is hitting a little different since we're all inside.
So for me, just first of all, shouts out to David, because there's nothing more than I love than roasting a racist. I'll just a real long time. You remember Friday? It's my pleasure all day long. My foot up a racist, but that's neither here nor there. I see them out in the street, so I get with them. But as far as this, for me, I've been trying to preach the gospel of reintroducing audience who are currently sitting at the house, currently starved for content, reintroducing them to what the indie community really is, right? Like I think part of the problem is that there is a cosmetic understanding of what it is to be indie that's a little bit eschewed or a little bit problematic, and we have to do the work of reinventing that connection, right? Like the mainstream has kind of the luxury of being dismissive of the craft itself, right? Like mainstream is like, oh, well, comic books are largely for kids and it's pulp stuff, but every once in a while you get Superman, and their thing is about great or brilliant content rising from what is essentially a child's art form. I think for us, we should get into the business of introducing the audience to the idea of not only our product, which is one thing, right? We've all heavily invested sweat equity, a lot of time, a lot of effort into getting a certain presence. But I think if we reintroduce indie culture as an accessible culture, as something where everybody can get to it, everybody can get in on it, everybody can be a part of it, right? And then let the rest of it filter out, right? Michael Jordan would never go to the local basketball court snatch the ball and kick it because they're not up to his standard, right?
That would be dope.
It depends on what they said to him.
That'd be hilarious.
Yeah,
That would be
because,
hilarious.
like the man is ruthless, right? We know he's ruthless, but as an ambassador to the game kind of vibe, right? Like, we know that everybody gets to play basketball, and a pro would never be worried about a rookie, right? Like if anything, they teach a rookie, right? If anything, they put them up on a little bit of game. I think if we make it more accessible to where you got the hobbyists and they feel welcome, the kid that's dreaming, they feel welcome, and the maker that's getting into the politics of it, the economics of it, they can make something happen with it. So what I've been trying to do is just re-engage my audience from a storyteller standpoint. Like, I'm gonna start doing recaps of my books. Like, I love seeing I saw Jimmy Simpson from Westworld. He was on GQ or Variety or some shit like that, and he recovered Westworld seasons 1 and 2 in like 3 minutes or less. He went through spoilers and the whole nine, because if I sat here and told you what's happening in Watchmen, beat for beat, if I told you everything that happened, even if I explained, oh, well, Osmond Davis is screaming I did it next to the picture of Alexander cutting the Gordian knot, I can tell you that, but you still got to look at that effing book. Right. So if you sit there, tell your audience the story of your character, if you connect with them, in a moment where the throne of Stan Lee has been abdicated, right? The ability to reconnect with the audience and be the ambassador of your story, right? Be the kind of shepherd, and this is a time where this is a different dynamic. Me, you, Victor, whoever, we got to be the face of our own brand, right? Like, here's the thing, but they need to know that I'm the guy that made it, right? Like, and so even though he feels like he's the star, I have to know I'm the person
that was fire production.
He's like,
Yeah.
Have the Jack Nicholson
That's real. That's real.
Yeah, like you have to be an ambassador for your content, and now is a great time where, you know, like the whole ecosystem that sprung up around mainstream comic content from the advent of the movies and the purchase of Disney. That ecosystem is in freeze because even the YouTuber is wholly dependent on grainy footage of Robert Pattinson stuntman dressed as Batman. Everybody. So when none of that's available, and I'm still putting out free comics on Wednesday, y'all are still creating content, it really becomes about, even before you give the content to them, you have to endear them to yourself, right, to get them to start buying in to what's going on. And I think the best way to do that, wrapping up my answer, the best way to do that is for us to present ourselves as a community, right? Image, DC, Marvel, they're never gonna open up a space just to let in Victor, just to let in me, just to let in Jason. It would be a nice wet dream, but that's not what's gonna happen. So for me,
to close that door after Dwayne.
Right. I'm not gonna beat Coca-Cola and Pepsi if I'm just RC. But my job is to make sure that Mr. Pibbs gets his doctorate. I'm supposed to move with the next crew, and then all of us together bump out whatever was there. So that's what we got to start doing.
Absolutely.
Word. On to Victor. When it comes to kind of like engaging your community, endearing yourself to the community, what do you do? What are some strategies? What are some ideas, some plans that you do to just even stay engaged in a time when a lot of people are just like, I don't feel like doing much?
Of course. I attack that on a multiple platform level. The first thing I try to do is come up with a couple of things. Like Quinn was saying, I think we all have to absolutely be advocates for ourselves. But then the other thing is to be advocates for each other, to say that we're not at odds in this. We can do friendly competition. We can do growth in that sense. So one of the first things that I did was, as a means of playfulness with the indie crowd, with the mainstream crowd, I put out a thing. Nobody did it, but to look at, whatever your next issue was, have a guest from a mainstream book appear in it somewhere, even if it's just a cameo in the back. And the whole thing was based on what number your next issue was, determine what person was going to show up in your book. and it was a way to kind of encourage us as indie guys to keep creating content. That's one of the biggest things that people say about us, is that we don't have enough. Well, if I get to slide in something kind of fun where you see Superman in the back, or Stan Lee if it's your very first book, Jack Kirby, you know, Galactus, whatever, that's a nice little thing to say, hey, we're all a part of this bigger community of comics. Then on the indie side, I did the amalgamation hashtag, where I was just playing around and I took Quinn's Wildfire, I took my man Mike Watson's Hot Shot, and I put that together. And the thing about it was, going back, like I saw how Gail Simone was talking about they need a big crossover event to make, you know, money for the shops again. And I'm like, well, while y'all are figuring that out, there's stuff that we do off rip. Like we're already in the mix. We never stop. So if you guys can do, you know, Marvel versus DC, and y'all think that's a thing, all right, well, what happens when we amalgamize ourselves? When we show, you know, oh, I like this book and I know this much about this character, so I'm gonna put him with this other indie guy, and oh, y'all don't know about this? Well, let me tell y'all about both of these characters. And it's just a fun way to introduce, you know, multiple people, whether it's your character, somebody else's. It was just a fun little thing, and Mike Watson has taken it to heart extremely, doing a bunch of different characters here and there, and it's been really cool to see. But the main thing for me though is I've been focusing on the You Create line, which is all about comics in the classroom. So my thing now is to work with school districts that are shut down and try to, you know, feed them projects, programming things that they can have the kids do at home. And the biggest part for me is our motto is kids who create comics read comics, and kids who read comics can read anything. So if I can get these kids interested in what we do as a creative force, then it opens up doors for you guys to jump in and be like, oh, y'all like comics? Boom, 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 boom. Here's a whole wave of stuff that's not Spidey, that's not Superman, not Batman. And it hits you where your, you know, where your heart is, where your home is. And that's my main thing is how can I get this next generation of readers open to accepting and appreciating what it is that we've spent our lives creating. You know, let's you know, Marvel and DC, they've had their turn. Okay, good job, guys. Y'all did well. But now let me show you something else. You know, that's what my biggest thing is. So how do I get people engaged? It's really talking about the educational side of what comics can do, and just open up the doors of saying, and if your kid isn't reading anything, give them a comic book. And if you need some help as to finding what comics are out there, hit these indie people up, because they're the ones that are still available right now. No question.
Right.
All right, Jason Reeves, question. Right now, with him talking about, you know, making sure you're visible and stuff, how important is brand to you right now? Is brand to you important, or is it just the simple books, or is there a hierarchy for you?
I've been kind of doing both. I've been focusing on more building than kind of being out in the public eye. For some reason, my promotion game hasn't been super on point. I think I might have been a little depleted from 2 Kickstarters back to back, with Changa and the Crossing.
Shout out those.
So,
shout out to both of those.
Thank you.
Very nice.
So I've been focusing on kind of building up some of our books, creating new things, building the brand for me. And as far as hierarchy goes, you know, it's content then brand. I know that might not be conventional thinking, but to me, the actual work, the actual things that people get to buy and purchase from us is so much more important. I think mostly that's because I'm an artist. I've been building behind the scenes, man, coming up with new things and trying to figure out what to do when everything kind of switches, you know, like, and hopefully that's a faster process than normal. I kind of feel like we're gonna be here for another, you know, almost a year, but I want to figure out strategies to make that stuff that I'm creating available, you know, and more accessible to people. So that's kind of what I've been working on. My brand, what Quinn was saying, like, I'm sort of the face of it, and I'm very comfortable with that. but I think it's more of a laid back kind of thing when I do it, you know? Like, I just play it low key, and I like the work to speak for 133 art. So yeah, that's all I've been doing, man. I've been building infrastructure. I've been linking with a couple of these fellas here, and we've been, you know, I'm trying to. What I really want to do, ideally, is build distribution, and Kickstarter fulfillment is going to be my new thing. So those are the underlying things that I've kind of been working on, trying to just figure out the logistics of.
Cool. On to Robert. You engage your fans in a very, I guess I could say, frequent way, and you do a lot of like updates around like what's going on behind the scenes. What drives that? What's your idea behind that? Like, why were you like, hey, what's going on behind the scenes is even important? Because there are people that are like, you don't need to know, you just need to see the end product. What is it about your approach that you're like, this is important, this is valuable for my readers to know, or for my readers to be cued in on?
Yeah, so a couple of fronts. First and foremost, as I try to look at things from a person who's spending money on me, their perspective. So at the end of the day, and we've tossed out a couple of the publishers, Marvel, DC, Image, Boom, whoever, their money can go to them, or whoever, you know, more well-known properties, I guess. So I always feel that if I'm open and kind of honest, you know, and upfront with what's happening behind the scenes, that will definitely kind of put, you know, my readers kind of at ease, you know, if there's, you know, just kind of keep them kind of focused and, you know, believing that everything's on the up and up. Secondly, growing up, I never got a chance to kind of see the process, you know, of making comics. You know, I didn't know how a script was written. I didn't know how, you know, the production side of things happened with the art, you know, the inking, the pencils, just everything. So I feel that if you kind of give that perspective, kind of inner perspective to, or inside perspective to, you know, readers, it, you know, it just kind of helps out, you know, just, you know, to kind of promote yourself and your product. And in today's day and age, transparency is key, especially if you are taking people's money for a, you know, for a, let me see the right word, for, you know, for you know, for a service that they're paying for. So that's been something like when we did the Kickstarter for Route 3 way back when with Terminus. I keep making this joke, and I was literally at the post office taking pictures of myself. Like, it's going in the mailbox, you know, that type of stuff. It's not a paranoia. It's more so you can build capital with just, you know, kind of opening, you know, up this process. Now, you don't got to let everybody into everything that you do. Like, for instance, I did a TikTok video singing Anita Baker. That shit will never happen again. So, because I wanted to, you know, I was just like, that's not a part of this process that I feel that helps to kind of, you know, show what we're doing. You know, just, you know, when I do the Facebook Live videos, it's, you know, to kind of keep people abreast of like what's happening. You know, the script is being done, the artwork is being done, and people seem receptive to it. You know, so for me, it's just a common sense approach, and it's more of a respect thing. You know, that's kind of how I view it. You know, when it comes to, you know, trying to be as transparent with this this process as possible. So, and even, you know, I did that presentation of like how to build a digital press kit. I had a creator apologize to me because he was like, "What I sent you was shit." When he, you know, with like sci-fi.com, and I was like, "Oh shit!" I mean, I didn't say it was shit, but, you know, thanks for being honest. But just kind of showing the process of how that whole thing is built together, build up. You know, it allows even creators to say, you know, this dude is, you know, is open with and is open with what he does, and I think all of us here collectively, we do that. There is no, we don't gatekeep. We allow those other people gatekeep. That's not for us, because we collectively grow. And just looking at the example of all of y'all in here, just the hustle and the drive, and just kind of seeing, you put out those lessons, helps me to grow at the age. I'm 38, and I'm still learning. So yeah, there's no gatekeeping. Keep it transparent for, your customers and your readers, and, happy. Just keep them happy. So just keep writing and drawing good shit. That's what we do. So.
On to Solar. Solar, you approach this from another kind of like angle as media, but he touched on gatekeeping, and you deal a lot with the disenfranchised, regardless of the different areas they come from. How are you dealing with combating the gatekeeping while also kind of introducing people that are coming in that might be brand new to either, indie comics or maybe like a rarely known animated series or whatever that might be? How is that engagement, and how is that, I guess, push-pull between the newcomers, if you will?
Well, I can tell you. How am I dealing with that? With gusto and aggression, truth be told. The gatekeeping thing that a lot of us have considered, and one of the reasons I started the company, was that those who have been kept by the gatekeeper suffer a specific type of trauma, where Robert was talking about it in the mystification of the totality of any of these medias. We're all black men here, and I'm betting dollars to donuts that, having only met 6 of you a few minutes ago, but I'm betting dollars to donuts that we all grew up in environments where the majority of our surroundings was telling us that we couldn't, it shouldn't be done, it's not real, and the irony of even our family members who spend all damn day sitting on their asses watching stories and watching Knight Rider and watching all this stuff, saying you can't have a career as a writer, an actor, a TV star, and that mystification causes gates on many angles. Now, the primary tactic that I've used is one that I've seen be a little more effective than others I've particularly tried, which is I tend to ignore us. And by that, I mean, I set my sights on children and teenagers, the ones who the lessons have not set in yet. A few days ago, I did a show with someone here about the importance of the never-ending story. And by the time we grow up, thank you, yeah, my favorite kids film, specifically because the antagonist is the emptiness that's left when you forget your hopes and abandon your dreams. And by the time a lot of us hit the workforce, those hopes and dreams are out the window. It's, you can't be anything that you want to be, you got to make money. That writing is a nice hobby, that YouTubing is a nice hobby. So I approach it from the standpoint of, hey, kid, do you have an imagination? Let me show you how to play Dungeons and Dragons. Let me gamify all of these skills that you're going to need when you go out into this cold, cruel world. So check out these comic books. I remember back in the 5th grade, I was reading What If X-Men Had Lost Inferno? And yeah, deep cut, right? And that was where I learned the definition of the word myriad, the definition and proper use of the word myriad, which is thousands of, for you viewers that are out there. So the proper use is a myriad of this. And I said, but what do they mean at this myriad? I have never heard that word on my street in South Central. There are no Crips that use things like myriad. So I went to the dictionary, I learned that type of thing. And over the course of my life, I've heard many people say, well, comics, that's just kid stuff, blah, 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 that's just kid stuff. And I'm like, are you telling me that Jim Henson doesn't make a living? Are you telling me that all this kid stuff is going to leave me pouring out on the street? I mean, really, is that a thing? So I approach kids in junior high and high school with, hey, let's read some comics. let me show you how to play Dungeons and Dragons so we can talk about character creation, three-dimensional character, plotting out things, and statistical analysis. Because let's face it, you have a 14.5% chance of actually hitting that guy with your axe. So, and it's like, how do you get that, Mr. Grey? I'm like, because it's a 20-sided die and each number is 5% of 100. So do your 5 multiplication tables. And when I say aggression, I do get difficulty because the generations behind us that have suffered the trauma of that gatekeeping, of they're never going to let black people in. They don't like Latinos. The church tells me that comics and dice and toys are of the devil. You know, getting through that is one of the things, is you can call it the first gate, the very first gate. You know, you have to have the fortitude and the community support to get through the gate that's in your home. And that is one of the things that I'm out there doing. I'm like, hi, you know, do I look like a devil worshiper? I don't even believe in the devil. How? If God's all powerful, then, you know, who can oppose it? God's under no threat. So now let's talk about this. And you know, once they see that working in the programs that I put together at these community centers, their kids are reading more. They're asking deeper questions. You know, every time a kid looks at a TV show or a movie and says, well, I would have done it that way, and you challenge them with, well, write the short story and we'll check it out. That is the breaking through of the first gate. And once you break them through on the first gate, you can ease them in on the difficulties that are coming. You know, to let them know that, yeah, it takes talent and luck to get through, but the number one thing it takes is fortitude and strategic thinking. You know, I adore indie comics, but then again, I grew up in South Central in the 80s and the 90s, and I could not walk down the street without somebody with their trunk open going, bro, I got that new, you know, I got that new Dre, I got that new Ice Cube, I got that new Eazy-E. And I'm like, you know what? That bro's just trying to make a living. You know, ain't much work to be had. So they're doing what it takes to do it. And when the communities get together and really build something, you know, then that's where we get our Motowns, our Harlems, you know, our Greenwood, Oklahomas, our, you know, all the places that we have thrived.
The truth be told, based on what you're saying, I don't think that we are at risk at all if the conventions don't open back up, if the stores don't open back up. We will backpack our books, just like you're talking about. You're like, wait, how did you do that? And you're like, I'm at the gas station, like, bro, what's the last book you read? I ain't never read it. Check this out, baby.
See, in truth, to answer your question about how I do it, I'm the guy over here from the consumer and the community building point of view saying, this is our time. This right here. Okay. All of y'all live in cities, every single one. And let's face it, when Kroger, Walmart, Smart & Final, whatever major big box store you got, ran out of toilet paper, we all went to the bodegas. Because the bodegas and the liquor stores, nobody went to. It's like, oh my God, the white people that are hoarding stuff are already afraid to go into those little stores. You know, so we walk in and we're like, you know, as you know, NERDSoul, I do a crafting show every Thursday. And I'm like, well, I got to go out and get supplies, but I got a bodega down the street where I get my glues and my poster board and all that jazz. And I'm not running out of materials. You know, when the toilet paper went away, I'm like, I got 3 bodegas around and 2.99 stores. What can I do? You know, and that is our time. Those are the guys that aren't in danger of closing. And I'm sitting looking at this whole panel. I'm like, so y'all want to do a motion comic? You know, because people are starved. You know,
I wanted to touch back on when you were covering gatekeeping. It's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Like there's the trauma that there's the trauma that. Yeah, no, but I'm back. I'm trying to be back.
I'm sorry, I can only listen to the opinions of people that can keep their cameras on.
Okay, I'm back. Don't leave me now. So yeah, so there's the trauma that leads to one end of it, but the other end of it, because you were saying that people say comics is just kids' entertainment. And I think one of the other problems on the other end of gatekeeping is a lot of the gatekeepers don't have any more respect for the craft than that. They came into this thing thinking kids like comics. All those comic book movies are making money. If I make a comic, I'll make a lot of money.
Oh,
Do I
true.
give a shit about
I don't
story,
even know.
plot,
I don't even know that shit. I'm a Star Trek fan.
nature of
I
children?
got the blueprint on my wall, and I don't care about that.
Wait, that's not how it works.
But hey, you know what? Did y'all see that meme that was out there with executives looking at Black Panther and the money that it made? And the whole meme was about how they take the wrong lessons from these things. Like, oh my God, Black Panther made all this money. People like movies about cats. And then a year later, Jellicle. And it's like, no, wrong lessons, you know? But the other side of that gatekeeping, and I get this, again, I started the company because I got tired of hearing one thing. And a lot of the women that I work with have heard one thing, but it's always, you're into this. I didn't know that insert this subculture did that.
Absolutely.
You know, it's like my main geek things, you know, my geek cred is deep. And I'm talking like deep sci-fi, fantasy, well, some fantasy, but a lot of deep sci-fi, tabletop role-playing games, tabletop miniatures games, comics all the way across the board. And people are like, well, you paint miniatures? I didn't know Black people did that. I'm like, evidently you don't know many Black people.
Right.
And, oh, you're into comics? I didn't think Black people did that. It's like, no, we can read. we can read, you know. And the same thing when girls are tested on if they're real sci-fi fans. Like, you know, what was the minute mark that Kirk lost his shirt when he fought the Gorn? You know, and it's like... Yeah, exactly. You know, exactly.
What's important?
No, what's important, and you know, back in the day, I worked at the Renaissance Fair, and I saw a lot of this stuff, and I'm like, every motherfucker here got thrown in their locker for being a history geek. Why y'all pretending right now? Like, why?
Because like frontiers they feel tough.
Yeah, seriously. And I'm like, we're a bunch of grown people that like cartoons and like collecting. Yeah, collecting toys, you know, and
Or
doing
dolls.
stuff that would give us good relationships with our children.
Don't do that dog shit. Don't do that dog shit. It ain't no dogs.
You know, let's just call it, all right?
What you gonna do with all these dials?
So one of the things that I do to stop the gatekeeping is I look at the gatekeeping. And again, the reason it's called BidP is I tell people, you know, are you playing the race card on that fan? Put that shit back in the deck. You playing the girl card on that fan? You wish you had a girlfriend that liked the stuff that you do. Shut your mouth. You know? I mean, I'm sorry. I don't mean to get a little adult here, but you know, my girlfriend has no problem dressing up like Harley Quinn and role playing at any time. And I'm very lucky in that. You know, and when our discussions, you know, I mean, let's face it, you have relationships with people and you build relationships with people based on common passions. And one of the things that gatekeepers do is they traumatize that passion for a myriad, see what I did there, of reasons, you know, primarily because, you know, well, I had to earn my way into here. So, and I'm like, you know, if your dad thought the same way, you would have never gone to college.
True.
You know, if your forefathers were like, you know what, I had to fight the British to get this country. No, y'all got to fight us. I mean, that just, the whole cycle does not make any sense.
Right. Now, to jump off of a couple of statements about community from you and also from Robert, since I'm kind of like in a more of a media spot, what do you guys need to build community from media? Are you getting it from media? No. And I mean more of independent media. I mean, unless Variety could do something too. But Variety, Deadline, The Wrap, you know what I'm saying, Hollywood Reporter, you know what I'm saying, we need y'all too.
That'd be amazing.
And Trump is gonna endorse reparations. Let's know what's next.
This just in. But what are you getting from media, or indie media, and what do you think you need from indie media to help foster this community, build this community, kind of like bootstrap it to something that is engaging for you?
So
I
was just going to say, from the perspective of somebody who works with one of those outlets, like sci-fi.com, we want that stuff. We collectively want that stuff. That was the reason why I did that presentation about the digital press kits, because it's sometimes, like, most of the press releases that I'll get sometimes are from PR firms who represent the larger companies, and it's not from indie creators. I find myself personally like hitting up, those creators to say, hey, we got this huge platform, like 8,000 plus followers on blacksci-fi.com on the Facebook page, and we want this material. So, actively, it's like editor-in-chief, I want this shit. I want it all. So that's been my goal, because I would rather be reporting more on our stuff versus the mainstream. And as a creator, I feel that there are those outlets that are open to, fucking with the indies, and there are those outlets who don't want to fuck with the indies. It just is what it is. Because at the end of the day, and I think that, and looking at it as a perspective of somebody with, who works at a website like this, sometimes I get the feeling that if your stuff is not going to bring eyes to their website, there's at least some of the larger ones that I don't get as many responses sometimes. And I find that most of the coverage that I get are from mid-size, outlets to smaller size. The exceptions being, and stuff like the Word Girl with Karama with Sci-Fi. When you have people at outlets like that who are actively trying to seek out us, that helps out a lot. And I'm always grateful for that. But yeah, that's just been my experience, and with as an editor-in-chief, but also as a creator. So it's that, it's always helpful to get the word out there so we can try to let people know that we exist. So,
if I may, the answer to your question is one dangerous word. And that word is the thing that we've all been tasked, we've all been offered as the price of our labor.
Exposure.
Yeah, and the thing that people die of. Exposure is the number one thing. If we have a lot of people that has eyes on our stuff, eyes on our brand, our products, our writing, those are the number one things that the media can really offer us, is, get us out there in front of the eyes of the people, because we are a niche of a niche market as far as the mainstream considers, like from the standpoint of investment. Comics and nerd culture is a niche market, although it is becoming more mainstream. It isn't the default yet. Give it 20 years. And since we are creators of color, that makes us a niche of a niche. So it's like, well, why should we give them any exposure? And I guess the second thing that we could use is, I suppose you could say, the education and communication. Because they're like, well, why should we give it to you? You're the niche of a niche. And I'm like, Tyler Perry. We support each other. I didn't see Soul Plane because I wanted to. I saw Soul Plane because it had a black cast.
All saw Soul Plane, and many of us saw bootleg 2 years before the theatrical.
Yeah,
Well,
Yeah,
I like.
Can I ask you a question on that? On the notion of exposure and media, how comfortable are you guys giving criticism of our content, do you ever feel like you have to positively support it just for the cause versus knowing good and well that maybe we need that hard critique in order to get better so that we can compete in a larger space? How comfortable are y'all with that?
Well, okay, here's I want to get in on what you just said.
Yeah, Chuck. Yeah, Chuck's
Okay,
been quiet.
so first of all, I just want to apologize. My cat has been driving me crazy since we started, so I'm sorry if I had to sign off a few times.
Oh, good. It's all good.
So with that, I honestly believe that your work should speak for itself. Whatever media outlet wants to cover it is going to cover it. It's because your work is at a certain quality. Now, and I'm going to say something very controversial. Whoever comes after me, but we have to start pushing ourselves forward to not just say, hey, I did a comic, stick figures, support me, I'm back. No, you have to have quality in your work. You just can't, you can't, say that you're drawing stuff that looks like old school, like Rob Liefeld stuff from the 90s, and you 45 like myself, and you still drawing that way, and you want the world to like bow at your feet. It's not gonna happen. That belongs in any community. I don't care where, white, black, whatever. If you drawing like Rob Liefeld, you need to get called out. Like, that's just, I'm sorry. But
Shots fired.
All jokes aside, all jokes aside though, I think when we talk about community, I think also there is an aspect of those who are out there doing the art to actually do it because we love it and we're passionate about it, and those who just want the clout. And I think those who are serious about doing it should really start to make relationships, even though it's not Variety or Deadline or whatever the case is. But just like NERDSoul, I met NERDSoul through Tony Perrier at San Diego Comic-Con. It's like, yo, I got the podcast and everything is cool. Like, let me know whatever you want to do with it. Let me know whatever you want from me. But you build these relationships with other people who are trying to come up with you. Think about old school hip hop, and think about all the cats that just started out busting beats and rhyming in their mom's crib, in the projects, and then years later, everybody got a multi-million selling whatever album out, right? And everybody's moved ahead and did things. Like Rick Rubin would never have thought that he would have been some weird Jewish kid chilling with Russell Simmons, just doing a whole bunch of beats, and now he's just sitting here like, I'm the richest dude in this business. Like, you just don't know how that's going to play out for you, but there is a certain amount of passion that you have to have, and you have to build this stuff with other people. So I think that along with your work making its own voice, you also have to have that relationship with the media people. You also have to, as an artist and a creator, be able to take the responsibility of just building things like press kits for yourself. You can't just go ahead and say, yo, look, go to anybody who's in media and then just put their comic book in front of them, and then just suddenly, like, you put the comic book in front of them, you just like
exactly.
Like,
thank you, Chuck.
Thank you, Chuck. Right. I get like tons of people. First, what was funny for me is I get tons of people that hit me up in the DMs, and just throw me their stuff, and I'm like, this is cool. I don't know what you want me to do with it, because I don't want media outlet. I'm struggling like you right now. I'm trying to get my stuff going, and then I'm sorry.
And I was just gonna say, I think there's a process to like the level of work though. At the same time, like I feel what you're saying, but Liefeld is a million copy selling artist, regardless.
He is. I'll give him. Yeah.
So I think, and back in the day, especially when it comes to comics, I'm not sure about other media, but when it comes to comics, comic artists and writers are allowed to build themselves up from one point to the next point. And I think we should all definitely be cognizant of the idea that somebody's going to start here, and they may not necessarily get superstar status, but they need the ability and the support to move to that upper echelon. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
While I feel you on the quality of it, like there's also sort of a gatekeeper quality to say, yo, you ain't drawing feet the way I like,
Oh.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, okay,
if I may come in on this for a minute,
and I'm not like really like.
I just want to, you know, just answer that real quick. And you're absolutely right. It is kind of like, you know, but I said all that because my point in bringing all that up, I said all that is that we have to start to, if you really want to do this and you really want to get media's attention, you want to get other artists' attention, you have to come into this and say, look, I'm an artist trying to do this like y'all. What can you offer me in terms of advice? Don't come at it like, yo, I'm doing this, give me my props. Like that's what I'm talking about on that level.
Yeah, all right.
There's a huge difference because when I get people who hit me up out of the clear blue that I don't know, that will just be like, yo, I'm doing this thing. All right, cool. I'll give them some advice. But nah, that's not what I'm looking for though. So I'm like, so why are you here? Why'd you hit me up in the first place? There has to be a level of like, you know, some kind of exchange. Like if you want me to help you, help me help you. That's where I'm coming with it. So I believe I'm not trying to say that I'm like, okay. To be
right. Then don't lead in with this is going to be controversial because the point that you're making is a fair point. It's a fair point that you're making. I think you touched on a really important thing there because with what you were saying, I got 100% truth, but I also saw that mystification that I was talking about again.
Right.
Because, you know, we are, all of us here are the second half of the first generation to really get in on this. Really the second half of the first generation. And what that means is that there is a lot of knowledge that we don't realize that we have in regards to what those coming up behind us don't. Such as, you brought up, you know, building up a press kit. If you go to any comic book convention and talk to anybody with one of those big damn folder briefcases with all their art in, I would bet cash money that I have to beg my Patreons for, please subscribe, that they don't even know how to put together a press kit.
Right.
At best, they don't know about needing a press kit, let alone how to put one together, let alone who to send it to.
Right.
And you know, those are all the different gates that have been kept. You know, where I come from, we call that dinner table knowledge, where when you sit around the dinner table with your family, your successful parent talks about their day at work. But and this is some of the stuff that we get if we pursue higher education. But I go off all the time about how I love the internet. It's my favorite invention since the condom. But the downside is that the most guaranteed way to make sure that someone knows nothing is to tell them everything. And one of the things that I think is our responsibility as the adult creators in the field right now is to teach those coming up behind us what questions to ask. Because I bet I can bet cash money, although I've only met 6 of you tonight. When we were coming up, we were told we gotta have this. Like I went to a panel at Comic-Con back in 2003, and it was how to get into comics, and all they talked about was you have to be at least as good an artist as Jim Lee to even have your stuff looked at. And, this was for DC.
I don't even draw.
And I was a little bit disgusted, but I was primarily there because, like my man David over there, the drawing of the pictures, like the making the pencil show the person, not my forte. I'm about drawing sounds. You know, I make the words do the thing, and I hand it to someone more talented than me to do that magic. And they were like, "Oh no, this isn't for writers." And I'm like, "Well, is there a panel that I can go to for writers?" "Well, you're going to have to find it. You are going to have to figure it out. The onus is on you to find out what questions to ask, to find out where to go to get the knowledge before you get turned down, you know?" And so, you know, that whole supporting, like, don't get me wrong, I will buy 80% of the comics of, "Yo, bro, I made this together. Look at the stick figures. I use chalk. I'm black." And I'll be like, "Here's $1 for your book. But the junior college down the street will have a serialized art class. You need to sign up for that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I
Like now.
I totally agree.
There
And that's one of the things that I think
the
opportunity
other
to
side
do
of
now.
that is ability, right? It's the part where everything that I've gotten so far career-wise, it was because I was absolutely unafraid to do a thing when somebody gave me advice. When somebody came, like, hey man, XYZ, but you might want to work on this. Instead of frowning and going, that's my style. That's how I
Yeah.
I sat down and I looked at what it was that was my deficiency, because first of all, that I'm here, right? Like what you said about being the second half of this generation to be able to even break in, right? That part puts an incredible degree of responsibility. And for me, I suffer from erroneous imposter syndrome. So like, there's always a voice in my head telling me, you know, they're gonna come in here and be like, you need to take your ass to FedEx. You shouldn't be in here. You should be throwing boxes. You should be at Diamond Distribution putting the boxes on the truck. You shouldn't be making the content. What's wrong with you? I always feel like that. So whenever an artist or writer makes a suggestion, gives me a tip, tells me to do a thing, I run with it. I am guilty of making judgments not about quality, because I know we all started at a starting point. We all started drawing, writing the letters on the same layer with the picture, and then draw the words over the letters, so everything's all warped. We all
Wait,
started
that's not
out
how
like
it's done?
I feel attacked right now.
I didn't know that there was more to it.
I'll talk to you about it. But you know, like get to the point where you're willing to grow. I am guilty of judging from year to year whether a cat is evolving. I'm not saying that you're supposed to end at Jim Lee, but you're supposed to damn sure end from where you started. You should be somewhere else if you're really pursuing the thing, right? It's okay to be a hobbyist. It's okay to just like it because it's fun. It's okay to do it for a little while and grow out of it. And those growth, those spaces, those are natural lanes. You don't have to keep gate for that. You don't have to stand in anybody's way about that, right? You just let it happen. So I think if we could get it there, that goes back to what I was originally saying about taking down the barrier for entry, because you need that hobbyist, you need that kid that's dreaming, you need that adult that's never going to work as hard as you are. You need them there, and you want them to feel welcome, so that when they put around, when they grow up, when they decide that they want to buy as much as they want to make, they'll be ready to shop with you, because they'll remember that you never shut them out, you never cut them off, you never talk bad to them. So it's a bit of a balance.
I totally
on the end of the learner or the new guy to listen to advice and do something with it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have no problem giving advice, and even when it comes to artwork, when it comes to, you know, everything that you can possibly do to make your first comic. If you want to go digital, if you want to go traditional, I have no problem with that. But the problem that I have is being able to sift through all the craziness that I hit up daily, and a lot of times I have to. I mean, you know, it's just my background. It's just the way I am. I have to shut it down before it gets crazy. Yeah. So, you know, and it's just, and it's not an aspect of gatekeeping at all. I mean, there are tons of people that we've helped each other out. And Quinn and I have talked about this all the time.
Yeah.
Like, it's just being kind to somebody and giving somebody advice is absolutely, it's worth nothing. It costs nothing.
It costs nothing, right?
Yeah, it costs not a thing.
Yeah.
Well, and it sounds like what you're saying is that you have to ride that line of not being so open, especially as you become more and more successful, where you're entertaining everyone's, you know, single whim, as opposed to saying, okay, I'm putting myself at a certain level. If you come for me, for any insight or anything like that, you have to be ready for the insight that I'm capable of giving you. And so that's the first thing that I'm going to see is like, if you can't handle this, then I'm not going to invest that much time into you, because that's time I could be growing. myself.
Honestly, that's not even a certain amount of fame, or like you got up there and you're doing all these things. That's even if you're starting, that if you get into the wrong dealings with the wrong person, you've already stunted your growth.
True.
Right. You know, so like you definitely have to you have to curate the people that you work with on that level. You know, and I know it's something that a lot of people find hard to talk about, but it's if I am willing to go and take the extra step to give you the information that you need, that I went through, that I suffered through, then I have to know that you're willing to take it and put it into practice. It's one thing to listen and say, yo, I see what you're saying, brother. You're saying a lot of good things. And then a year from now, you're doing the same exact thing you were doing. Then what more from me now at this point? And I think that, and going back to the whole aspect of media, I think that a lot of cats get swept up into like, I just did and I've seen it. I just did a webcomic. It's cool. I got like 50 likes. Here, you know, comicbook.com, where's my shit? And then they go on the whole like Twitter thread and then they diss comicbook.com because they didn't read their comic. And I'm like, dude, that's not how it works.
That happens.
And you can't tell them
happens often.
You can't tell them nothing. So I think that, you know, much like everything else, I think that, you know, it's better to build a relationship with the people that you want to represent your work. It's one thing to let your work speak for itself. You go on Twitter and you put up a thing and then 100,000 people like it. But it's another thing with building the right alliances with people in media that can actually push your work and actually want to see what you do and actually want to support what you do. You know, I've had people in mainstream media that have gone and said, you know, that have covered all kinds of crazy stuff that's indie, and then in the secret hit me up on my DMs like, yo man, I really enjoy Bounce, man, that's cool. I'm like, so say something.
Yeah, like
don't tell me in secret. Like I know how all the stuff goes where, you know, you got to go by the editor and all this other stuff, and I know my brand of work is very adult, and I get that. And sometimes I'll say like, I appreciate the thing or whatever. Or, you know, you go to a con and you get this dude like, yo, Bounce is crazy, man. I really like it. And I'm like, can you buy a book? Nah, just send me a
I ain't got no money to do.
That's another thing.
I got to get that Marvel pinup. Right?
Yeah, I wanted to jump in on that. That's very important. How hard or easy have you guys found it in creating community and being in a community to get that share, get that like, get that comment? Because in the world that we're in, a retweet takes 2 seconds, 3 maybe, and it does seem that there are many people that shout out indie creators, or we want something new, or I need something fresh, or I'm tired of the same old. And I see you guys' tweets. Now, I know the algorithm works in funny ways for all of us, and they might not see it. But at times when they do, they're not liking it. They're not retweeting it. They're not sending it out. They're not making a comment on it. And therefore, you're not getting that kind of like deeper penetration into the social media algorithm of whether it's Instagram or it's Twitter. And I'll say this for you guys so you don't have to say it. I don't think you guys are asking too much for the people that read your book to retweet it or to comment on it or to like it or just make a short Facebook post that says, hey, I bought this and it's good. What's that? 2 sentences, 3? I don't know, whatever. The small things matter. And why doesn't the community seem to be getting it or doing it? Because they're doing it for, like you said, Star Wars or, Avengers. Why isn't it happening? Or is it that thing where, yo, this is my artist, like kind of in hip hop. I liked it before he blew up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is it that thing?
Fuck that.
I think it's a little bit of all of the above. Okay, so with Star Wars, there's a reward system, right? If John Boyega retweets your retweet, right, you're connected to the franchise and you feel like something's happened, right? for me, my solution has always been to seriously and unafraid myself show my audience what to do by when I see Samaritan, when I see Paragon, when I see somebody else's creation, when I see Bounce, I share it. And I do that without fear of confusing the algorithm, because I already know the algorithm is about me. So there's nothing to confuse. I'm pretty clear about what product belongs to me. I try to shout out whoever it is I'm retweeting as the artist or creator, and you have to show your audience how to do that. It's always still the same theory. I'm from Memphis, so in Memphis, first of all, you can't throw a rock and not hit somebody that can sing like Beyonce or can rap or whatever. So living here is like living at the Xavier School for Talented Youngsters, right?
You're attacked that much?
No. Are protecting the people that hate us. But you don't get love until you leave. 8Ball and MJG moved to Texas before they're recognized. 3-6 goes on a world tour and gets in a movie before they're recognized at home. People didn't start jocking me until I went to Comic-Con. People didn't start caring because
they jocking you, son?
It's from this out, right? It's part where we never gave a shit about what the guy was doing because he's just drawing, and drawing is cool. And I guess one drawing or two drawings makes me feel a way. But no, he's hanging with celebrities. Oh, I know him. That's my cousin. That's my partner.
So it's kind of like the stunt. You need the stunt first.
Yeah.
The stunt is theatricality, right?
Growing up in the entertainment industry, in and around the entertainment industry, there's a saying: you can never be famous where you're from. I mean, even Jesus Christ had to go on the road with his 12 buddies. You know,
and hit the road with the band.
No, it's true.
Jesus Christ, World Tour.
And I don't want to sound cynical, but this is something I've been struggling with for the past couple of months. Because in the movie Boiler Room, they say, "Don't trust your friends. Your friends are garbage. Your friends aren't going to buy what you're selling. Right? Your family's not going to sell what you're selling." And I think all of us learned that when our schools tasked us to selling chocolate bars when we were little kids. You know, because everybody's like you said it, Quinn, when you're sitting up in Memphis, and everybody sounds like Beyonce. So it's down here in LA. It's, well, what have you got to offer that nobody else is offering? And when I started this company, I'm like, I'm not even asking y'all. I don't want you guys. You know, my market is South Africa and Northern Europe and places that wonder what Black people think about nerd culture. Because either in the United States, everyone thinks they know or no one cares. So I'm trying to market what we do here to places that like Black people from the United States. And there's a lot more places out there than you might think. But as far as getting your stuff out there, like, how do you build the community? The answer is the same as it has been for 5 generations: slowly and diligently. You know, the people around you, they're not going to care until you got coattails to ride.
True.
So you have to, you know, when I said earlier, you need talent, luck, and endurance. And so you got to have that real hard forehead to keep your head down and just keep mustering through that storm of all the people saying, he all right. The people like, with my Twitch channel, I'm like, yeah, I don't get that many views and I'm trying to get to the next level. And I can't even get the people on my regular friends list to open up my tab when I go live, mute the damn transmission, and open up another tab and do whatever they were doing. You know, that's too much work.
Right.
You know, so you got to put yourself out there. And one of the most reliable methods that there has been, and I think Robert will be able to back me up, is to shotgun the method out there. Just throw science against the wall, see where your audience is, and then once you find your audience, you focus on that audience. But building that community initially, that's the sweat. That's the putting up the flyers to say you're playing at Sunset. That's the I'm gonna be at this comedy club. You know,
Right.
I think you also
at least
gotta
that's
look
the
at
way
it
it has
where-
been. I don't know if it's changed.
You also got to look at it where our sense of building community is also building community for you as media.
Mhm.
We need to be just as diligently finding media outlets that say the things that we're interested in talking about or agreeing with, and finding that symbiosis.
Mhm.
You know, there should be a NERDSoul, you know, T-shirt in the background of one of my books, just because, you know, like that should be something that we do to create that symbiosis. And real talk, the place that I learned that best, ironically, was from the mainstream setup of things. Mark Miller is my guy. I love his stuff. I have for a long time. What I noticed was the guy that writes stuff for Hollywood Reporter, you'll never guess where he's from as well. He's from Scotland, just like Mark. They became a thing. And so anytime Mark's got something in the news, Graham is always writing about it. And it's like, I wonder how that, you know, came about. He knew that his man was in this thing. Mark was like, yo, I'll feed you stuff that don't nobody else have. Boom, boom, boom. Symbiosis.
That's another thing. We can't be afraid to use the community that we already have, the network that we already have alongside of us. I think a lot of what Soul is talking about with gatekeeping too is gatekeeping creates a fear of that, right? Like our community, our networking isn't enough. And most of the time we'll find that it is. Like I find with building this stuff and having people share and having people come to shows to see you is about those people that celebrate you. Those people actually do open the window and put it on mute. Those people actually do. Like I know, shout out to Jonathan Soul podcast. Jonathan Soul has bought all of my books. Reviewed me more than once, and he's always trying to say, man, come on the show and see what, you know, let me talk to you, see what you're doing, you know. He tells people about it. When I go to shows, man, I go to San Francisco, and there's always, you know, at least 5 to 10 people who want to see me every year, and they want to know what we're doing, you know. After the show, when we're on their minds, they're retweeting, they're putting us on Instagram and everything. So I think we should definitely focus, like So was saying, on the community, the people that celebrate us. You should utilize that first, and then that'll take us to the next whatever step is going. You know, also I'm a big fan of the idea of training your audience to kind of move when you move, to buy when you prompt, and that kind of thing. I really believe that is a goal that we can reach. I don't like the idea of saying like comic shop goers go to the comic shop every Wednesday, and that's when you got to drop books. You got to have a monthly book and all that. I'm like, yo, we can't produce on that level. So I feel like we need to train the people that are into our stuff. When we drop, that's when you buy, right? I drop a book every quarter, so y'all need to be waiting on me for every quarter, right? And anticipating that and posting about that. So I think we need to change how the mainstream wants us to operate or tells us to operate, or the gatekeepers, if we're talking about that. Like, we need to operate in a way that's conducive to our respective businesses, and we shouldn't be like, yo, I don't want to try to do it the way it's been done, the way that hasn't worked for me and my folks for all these generations. I want to do it in a way that's conducive for me, and hopefully those cats coming behind.
All right, now I want to throw it to Robert real quick, because I know you had something on your mind. But and then I'll throw it to Victor in a second. But go ahead, Robert.
Well, no, I was going to say, you know, I get tired of the discussion among specifically Black nerds, where they keep asking the big two to give them something, to give them this, to give them that. And I learned a long time ago to stop trying to push my stuff to those people. And I'm just being real, because I'm not I'm not going to fight with you to give you something that all of us collectively have to give to y'all, and you keep going to the same well to ask for that. So that's kind of when it comes to like, you know, what Brandon Easton says, what is the condition where Patty Hearst, like that Patty Hearst condition where you're not,
Stockholm.
Exactly. So the Stockholm syndrome, the Black geek Stockholm syndrome. So, and the way that you can kind of, I've built, I guess, the readership that I have, because saying fandom seems weird to me. That's personal to me. It's all, I'm always going to be like self-conscious dude that says, when somebody says they're a fan of my work, I'm like, I mean, that's great. You know, it's great. But
I wasn't prepared for success. Oh no.
Yeah. No, I was prepared for bologna sandwiches and the roof over my head. No, but one of the things that I've done within, and I keep saying this, you build on your reputation, you build with the quality of work, you build with the quality of the person that you are, and people will kind of come to that. Like there was one lady, she works in the library system down here, bought a copy of Route 3 and put it in our library system, which is awesome. But whenever I do a Kickstarter from that point on, she is constantly retweeting, sharing this, that. And the other thing I wanted to speak to is because my experiences, everybody's experience in here is different. I come from the experience of having those close-knit ties of family and friends who they will tell you straight up. My mom will tell me straight up, like, BJ, I don't understand the shit that you're doing, but I'm selling this shit at my law office. So that's just her, because she sees that it gave my brother, and my brother is a hip hop artist. So that stuff kind of gave us a sense of happiness, and the generation before, when they're browbeat with this ideal, and we're still browbeat with this, like the only way that you succeed in this is to work and die. Fuck that shit. So that's what my mom told me. That's what my mom told me growing up. She said, if you got to do a side hustle, that's cool. If you got to work 2 or 3 jobs, that's cool. But do what you love, because at the end of the day, you're going to die unfulfilled. And once again, she said, BJ, I don't understand this matrix shit, but I got you. You know, so that's kind of how it's been. And also building that circle of, like I said, supporters and readers who keep coming back for that good shit. So that's how, that's kind of how the readership, that's how I've built my readership up. And I stopped beating my head up against the wall to ask specifically, why are there some blurs who don't want to fuck with me? They got they got the mainstream stuff they're going to stick with, and there's those level of blurs who are going to come to us, black nerds, black geeks, because I know blurs is problematic for some people, whatever. But for I just feel that you have to find those people who want that stuff and keep giving it to them as much as possible and keep growing as much as you can. I am not the same writer that I was when I wrote Daddy's Little Girl or Robert's Time Machine. That will never see the light of day. But I think when they see that upper progression as far as you kind of getting into, you know, loving the stuff that you love, but also kind of building on your talents, you'll keep coming back. I shipped out like 4 books this morning from people who saw me like hustling yesterday because I ain't got shit to do. I'm like, oh. No, I ain't got shit to do. I sent a couple of them your way, Jason. I sent out mine to Avenge, Route 3, and the DC book. DC sure as hell ain't hitting me back for shit. So just being real, I mean, I gotta get these books off my head, and I have to feed my family, because at the end of the day, I look at this as I hustle because I love it, but I hustle because we got groceries to buy. So
and you just try to make some money to feed your daughter.
Exactly. Well, not my old ass dog. But yeah.
I wanted to say one thing, and then I wanted to jump to Victor real quick. Everybody has their different schedules. Jason talked about like only once a quarter or something like that, and then juxtaposing that with Gail.
It was a rough estimate.
Oh yeah, rough estimate. And then juxtaposing that with Gail Simone talking about there always needs to be, a crossover to bring people back to the stores. Pretty recently, we were involved with the Don't Rush Challenge. where we got a whole bunch of guys together and we did some fun stuff, and it kind of ignited a little fire. Like, oh, hey, this is fun. This is cool. Is there? And I'm not the best organizer in the world.
I don't know about that.
But is there? Are there? Or not? Are there? I'm sure there are. But I guess just to say this, because of course we'll never know until we think about it, but just to try to keep in our minds things to do that can be big without us having to make a whole brand new comic just for it to, kind of like, just everybody throw your videos together. And I know there's something going on with Newton and stuff right now. Yeah. I don't know exactly what it is because I didn't read it all, sorry. But I know but continually doing things like that where we're always having fun stuff, doing fun stuff where maybe we don't get together to make a 12-issue arc of people fighting each other for no reason. And then nothing really happens except Cyclops gets a cool outfit. But
the Marvel way.
Yeah. I mean, what you're saying is really just how do we utilize our blackness in what we do in geekdom? Because I mean, if you look
how
at
do we
do that all the
native tongues this thing? How do we?
I mean, just by like literally doing it. I mean, like you got with the Don't Rush challenge, you guys created a cipher, right? And I hope that y'all got like some crazy dope like sales and or upticks just because more people saw all of you in that regard. And the thing is that those are things for our culture, because literally that Don't Rush challenge, that's a black move. That's not that's not the mainstream, Whitey Cassell didn't do that. We did that. And it's just a matter of taking those things that we do and making that work. Yeah. I don't think that it's really outside of the box. It's rather us recognizing that it's okay for us to truly be comic book geek guys and black folks all at the same time.
Ain't nothing wrong with the Chitlin Circuit.
Yeah.
Cool. And yeah, Chitlin Circuit, Solar, you and I have talked about that. Chitlin Circuit, we got to work that. I did want to end on this and get you guys' view on it. Victor Dandridge says there's three things kind of like getting in our way as far as gatekeeping. And
Victor, say it out loud,
you can either go one by one, you can put all three of them out. But I want you to say it so people don't
hear I just didn't.
And
I
then everybody,
sure
David, Robert, whoever, Chuck, you guys weigh in, and then we can piece all y'all out.
I got you. So going really off of what you were saying, Solar, was the notion that the first gatekeeping that we have to do is our inner circle, and I think that's our second. I think the first one that we have to deal with is ourselves. We have to think we can do this and be comfortable with putting it out there. That's number one. Mm-hmm. But then you're absolutely right. That number two are those people in our immediate circle that will be like, nah, you can't, who you think you are, blah, blah, blah. All of that, that's number two, easy. And then the third thing is still internal, is recognizing that our inner circle can actually grow to encompass others. Mm-hmm. And that becomes really tough. I experienced that a lot. Just over a year or so ago, I was the Artist Alley coordinator for Wizard World Comic Con. You'd be surprised how few of us were willing to reach out and be like, yo, I want a table. Let me get a table.
I'm not remotely surprised.
And it's not even like, I'm not going to poop on Wizard World, for what it is, what it isn't, but it was an opportunity. Mm-hmm. And that's hard because, you're talking about somebody that's coming at you like, yo, let me help you. Of course, we're going to look at it and be like, well, what do you want? Why are you helping me? What is it? Well, and it's hard.
Can I answer those three things with something I keep close to my heart? Like this is me putting on the wizard hat and grabbing the staff and all that. Okay. Number one, does any artist have anything better to do with their lives than succeed?
Man, no.
You got anything better to do than make $1 billion? I'm into my Baldur's Gate game, but all right. Second thing, and this encompasses those last 2 points. This is something that a friend of mine told me, a friend of ours, our good bizarre friend Russell Nolte, said to me, he's a very manic man, talented AF. Okay, talented AF. you gonna see him like in 10 years. He's gonna be up there with like Wade and Wolfman. There's no question in my head. But he said something to me that shook me to the core. Like I couldn't bear to look at it for almost a year after he told me this. And this answers those two gates that you were talking about. So, y'all ready?
Ready, go.
The 5 people you spend the most time with are the ones that determine the course of your future.
That's true.
Yeah, it hurts. 'Cause yeah, that immediate
Very
circle,
true.
that whole
Yeah.
are you a crab in the bucket or are you somebody with a rope?
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
Or more to the point, where is that rope tied? Is it tied to the rock on the edge of this pit or is it tied to my ankle?
Right.
And that has nothing to do with intent. It has everything to do with action.
Yeah.
You know, because growing up in Black culture, we all know the people that love us most are the quickest ones to tear us down because of post-traumatic slave disorder. You know, you know, look it up, guys. Google is free. I'm saying that to the audience, but surrounding ourselves by the people that know that we care but don't lift us up in the ways that we need to be lifted up, allow us to build a life of intention and hope.
Right.
So to find those circles that aren't made of transactional relationships on a greedy end, but asking oneself, what do I have to bring to this relationship? And what does the person I'm involved with have to bring to the relationship? But only putting the lion's share of the focus on what you got to bring to the table. And that goes back to that first point. Like, you got to know that you have something to bring. When I started this channel, people are like, man, ain't nobody gonna want that. And I'm like, you don't want it.
Right.
But on a planet of 7 billion people, I cannot be that unique. Just statistically speaking, that is an improbability.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And
Absolutely
you know,
true.
just looking at it from the money point of view, if I could get 0.0002% of the population that feels like me to come together, and 2% of that 0.2 throws me a nickel a month, I have a lifestyle better than my parents, and I'm cool with that. Okay. But more to the point, the number one thing I've noticed about the disenfranchised nerd culture, okay, and I say this to a bunch of Black men and a bunch of the Black women and the Latino women and the lesbians and the disabled that are going to be watching this video, most of us have grown up thinking that we were alone because we seem far apart. And up until about 2003, all the stuff that made us happy was something that was frowned upon. You know, so it was like, you know, man, what you doing reading them fantasy novels? Ain't no Black people in science fiction, you know. And it's like, you know, but then you go into their house and you see that they got every DVD season of Star Trek: The Next Generation, but they can't. They got to be stunting in public, you know. They got to be like, nah, man, I ain't into that. So around 2003, 2004, it became all right, but it became all right in that way of you got to like the right stuff, you know. But there are people out there that hear us, and that's where we built that whole thing. So yeah, the first thing is that inner insecurity that I'm gonna get clowned if I come out saying that. You know, I'll say it right now. I got off the anime train in 1998 after Adult Swim became a thing. You know, I've got my reasons, but I was tired of anime by then. So when I talk to you know, the younger Cool Breezes and Slick Bros coming up that are talking about My Hero Academia and One Piece, I'm like, that's after my time. You know, I can drop some knowledge on Legends of the Galactic Heroes. I can talk about, you know, Mononoke Hime and all this other stuff from way back in the day. But I'm not into the new stuff. And I'm like, check out some of the old stuff. You know, it ain't popular. It's not water cooler stuff. And there are some people that hear me. I was talking to NERDSoul about Doom, you know, because the biggest phenomenon over the past 10 years to happen on TV was Game of Thrones. And I'm like, bruh, Dune is Game of Thrones before Game of Thrones.
Right.
Right.
And now,
Yeah.
and now that's going to be a thing,
Yep.
Right.
and we can do that unashamedly. I mean, a lot of us did end up getting our asses kicked and thrown in lockers for reading Spider-Man. And,
Let them come see us now.
Huh?
Yeah.
right?
Let them come see us now. Yeah.
So-
I got meat on my bones now. We can
Yeah.
talk.
I'm just saying, I read Spider-Man back then, and you were saying I was all this, and now my big thing, Doctor Who. I've been a Whovian since 1979.
There you go.
My
Yep.
favorite Doctor is Patrick Troughton.
Okay.
And I had people all throughout the 90s saying, I don't want to watch this. This has terrible production value. This has this. I'm like, yeah, but look at the story. And then the new Doctor Who came out, and everybody's all about Doctor Who. I'm like,
Yeah.
where were you 15 years ago?
I tried to put you on. You wasn't paying attention.
But
That's real.
instead of going, where were you 15 years ago? You're a poser. I'm now like, welcome to the fold. Ain't nothing to be ashamed of. And that is one of the big ways that we have to get that we have to help others
Right.
to get
That's
over
what you're
those
aiming
gates, to say
That is.
who you are is okay. Your voice is important, and you're not alone. Just because the dudes at the basketball courts say that you crazy, crazy ain't bad. Joker
Right.
made a whole bunch of money.
That's real. So yeah, I got one more challenge for you guys. I did the amalgamation, and I did the next issue piece. So this is one that I was gonna do because y'all always seem to leave the Ohio dudes out, so we was mad. So I got some Ohio guys together.
Did we?
You always leave us out. Y'all always
we
leave
had
us
somebody
out.
from Ohio, didn't we? Did we have some Ohio players in there?
Don't take it personal, bro.
Right.
Everybody tries to forget Ohio, even
This
y'all.
is actually going to be a thing that we were going to do first, and then get y'all to be like, oh snap, we need to jump on this. But I'm going to share this right now because things changed. This is what we were going to do. So it was I think it was like 8 of us got together, all Columbus guys, and what we were going to do is we were going to do a anthology book called The Green Book. But with this one, we were doing the comic creators, the black comic creators in Columbus. And we were going to challenge everyone else to link up with the other comic creators in your town and do your own version of the Green Book. You were to partner with comic shops, and the only place that they could get it is if they come to your city. They got to come to your city. You can't order it online. We want people to actually go and experience where the black creators are all across America. So I'm giving y'all that one as a freebie.
That is not fair. I live in LA.
I mean,
Love, because I'm gonna win because we got barbecue in my city.
oh, that's messed up. That ain't fair, but I like it. I like it.
But we got the rest of the comic industry.
What's that?
Yeah, but we got the rest of the comic industry.
I mean,
I don't know, barbecue comics.
Hey, I'm just saying, y'all working to move
It's
here.
sticky on the
That's all
finger.
I'm saying.
But no, the whole thing was to challenge everybody, especially if you've gotten any sort of notoriety in the game, is to go back and find the other people that are in your town, whether they're young ones, older ones, work with them, put together this thing, and y'all rep your city on the basis of, this is what it is. And in terms of black geekdom, taking it back to the roots, people need to know that this is what we do as black creators, as black fans. There are people that are doing stuff, and this is where we are. This is this generation bunch here, there, and everywhere else.
Pretty dope. That's a great idea.
Sounds like you're trying to make this whole hip hop rivalry start again in
Daggone
comics.
right I am. You
Oh my God.
right.
Oh man,
But I
this
mean, that's
Chicago
cool. That's
style.
cool. I do enjoy stuff where we can have fun as a community that doesn't have to, hopefully, not super drain your resources, and you gotta spend a whole bunch of money or a whole bunch of time, and hopefully we can still do something without kind of like creating a crossover that kind of bogs down the system.
Right.
Well, I'm guessing this is a post-corona challenge, right?
It was a pre-corona challenge.
Yeah, I was about to say.
And now it's going to be a post-corona
And
challenge.
now it's got to be post. We got to figure out how we're going to do this. But
Like,
I just wanted to throw that out there as a sense of, you know, we're all here representing the U.S. and there's different people that we know in our town that aren't represented right here.
True.
What would happen if we had some unifying brand? Not necessarily all of us create this big company, but we do something. We go, okay, well, this is the guys from this area. This is the guys from this area. And these are the things that we're creating. And it just, again, creates that voice. On the media side, imagine you guys being able to talk about per, you know, city location or grouping. Yo, these are the guys that did the Green Book from this place, and we're going to talk to them about what they're doing with the, you know, any of that stuff. So It's just another nugget. I'm just throwing it out there. If it sticks,
You know,
yay.
Well,
how dare
I'll
you
ask
give us a good idea?
So before we get out of here, I'm gonna let everybody shout out themselves, their books, all their stuff. We're gonna start all the way from the bottom of the bottom. You know what I'm saying? Robert Jeffrey, shout yourself out. Where can they find your books? Also, Free Mind to Avenge.
Come on now.
Thank you all. There's my website is robertkjeffrey.com, robertkjeffrey.com, and all my social media handles are at the bottom of that page. And you can buy any book that I've written on that page. So, especially Route 3. But thank you for the opportunity. Support everybody on this page. I mean, with follows, likes, and money. So.
Absolutely.
Cool. Jason Reeves.
Jason Reeves, 133 Art. We produce a comic called Kid Carvers, One Nation, Redcon, written by Mr. Robert Jeffrey. The Crossing is our newest book, written and created by Mr. Robert Jeffrey. And Changa and the Jade Obelisk. So you can find all of our stuff at 133art.com, print and digital. Also a bunch of prints and posters. And we are at 133 Art on all social media.
Cool. Chuck Collins.
Oh, all right. The name of my webcomic is called Bounce! Exclamation point. You can find the website at www.bouncethecomic.com. You can buy all of my stuff digitally. I am currently out of everything print. I may be hitting you up. I know. I may be hitting you up, Mr. Jason Reeves, for a re-up at some point, because I know we spoke about it here and there, but I'll definitely hit you up on that.
Oh, yeah.
You can buy all of my comics digitally. I have 3 volumes out: Bounce Volume 1, 2, and Top Shelf Hits on Gumroad.com/The Bouncer. Recently, because of this whole pandemic, I haven't been able to concentrate and do a whole new comic book, because the comic basically revolves around satire and parody based on our current state of affairs inside of a bar. My characters can no longer be in a bar because of the pandemic, and my jokes have fallen flat. So I gotta come up with some new stuff. And so I usually try to put out at least 4 or 5 comics a month, comic strips. But hopefully, I'll come up with something within the next month and start doing that again. But you can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at _bounce_comic.
And quick question to you: will there ever be any more DSX stuff?
Oh yeah, I don't mean to segue into conversation about that, because it's something that's hit me kind of hard. Because the and I'll tell you why. As a creator, I wrote that comic more than a decade ago, and it's a post-apocalyptic future, and the future came about through a pandemic. I'm like, how?
So it's your fault.
For me to
It's
live
your
in a
fault.
world where I'm living the prequel of my own comic. This is crazy. So I'm gonna kind of not touch it for a little bit. And look, I want to at some point. I even started dabbling with some new character designs, but I'm gonna leave it alone for a few months. Let's see how this plays out. Make sure I didn't actually predict the future.
I saw
right. Oh no. No, yeah, but at some point, I do want to do that. At some point.
Okay, Quinn McGowan.
Okay, Quinn McGowan. You can find all my stuff, Project Wildfire and otherwise, at operative.net. You can also find my stuff at legendspress.com, but it's usually
How is that
easiest
comic flying like that?
Lucasfilm.
I'm sorry, what
My
.com was that?
But yeah, you can find everything at operative.net. That's usually where I am. You can always go to legendspresspublishing.com if you would like. But Operative is the place to go. That's where I drop free webcomics every Wednesday. We're currently in an arc called Smoke on the Water, where our protagonist meets a Native American shaman. So you can check that out. It's free, and you can read it. Reading is fundamental.
Yes, it is. I mean, if Shaq can get on a poster talking about read, you know it's real.
Shaq can read?
So, David Crownson, what's up?
So my name is David Crownson, writer, creator of Harriet, Tubman, Demon Slayer. You can purchase it digitally either on peepgamecomics.com or Comixology. And if you want a physical copy, you can just hit me up through Twitter or Instagram at @dcrownson. And the comic is printed by Jason Reeves at 123 Art, and people love it. That's right. Oh shit, Jason! Issue 4 is coming out in June. I gotta send that to you. Yeah, you can follow everything at Harriet Tubman _ Demon Slayer at Instagram, and follow us on Facebook, Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer, D Crownson at Twitter, at D Crownson on Instagram.
Cool. And Victor Dandridge.
So you guys can follow me at Vantage In-House on all forms of social media, where we've got this big collection of products here, from Wonder Care Presents the Kindergartens, Old Crazy and the 40 Ounces of Death, The Samaritan, The Trouble with Love. We got some things. We spent some time writing. You should also check out You Create Comics. That's the letter U, CRE, the number 8, comics.com, where you can get some projects for helping you make your own comic universe. Whether you're an old head at it or a young mind, we got stuff for you.
All right, and last but not leastly, Solar Grey.
Hey, how you guys doing out there? This is Solar Grey, the Cinematic Sorcerer, as I said. You can find us at backinthedeck@gmail.com. That's BACKINTHEDECK@gmail.com. You can also hit us on all the social media things, specifically Twitter and Instagram, just at backinthedeck. And of course, you can find our stuff over at soundcloud.com/bidp, patreon.com/bidp. And if you are part of that wretched hive of scum and villainy known as Facebook, you can join the group Deckers on the Book, where you can talk to us, show us your stuff, and all that stuff. So that's where you can find us.
Great. Well, of course, NERDSoul, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all them places. Podcast, or if you don't want to see me, you can listen to me. And if you don't want to listen to me, just play it and then just mute it, and then it still plays all the way through. And then Spotify for some music, and then of course you can hit up the website. But YouTube is mostly the place where I interview guys like this, talk about fun stuff. We can go hip hop or geek and have a great time. So guys, we thank you for hanging out with us for an hour and some change or whatever, and we hope that this was edifying to your soul. But of course, from us to you, we're saying thanks for watching and peace.
Peace.